But we have one more game to talk about. And it's obviously, the biggest of them all. And, we talked a little bit more about the man-to-man, specifically with Moore. And I want to kind of go back to that because, I saw today on social media that some of Ohio State, their coaching staff, they're working on having to possibly deal with Notre Dame staying in man-to-man, but they do a lot of switching, kind of like in basketball. They switch off man-to-man. They have the communication where they're able to do that. Now, me watching it on film, I didn't see a whole lot of that. But if that's something that they can do, that definitely complicates things a bit. But also, you mentioned before the fact that they've moved Jeremiah Smith around a lot. He doesn't line up in one specific area, and they're not going to do just that with him. They'll do it with the other guys. So I think even having that, switching kind of defense would be pretty complicated and pretty easy to get lost in the sauce. What do you think?
Say that last part for me one more time.
So Chip Kelly, you can scheme dudes up. When you have a man-to-man scheme, and if you think they're going to switch, guys, that tells me, okay, we're going to start running a lot of crossing routes, a lot of routes that guys, all of a sudden they got to pass someone off.
Okay.
And if that, we've seen it plenty of times, look at any football game. When you got to pass guys off, that sometimes gets complicated, and that's how guys get wide open. Yeah,
they will have to do a lot of that. Anytime Ohio State plays teams against man, specifically Ryan Day, he will run crossing routes till he gets tired of it, and he won't get tired of it. I also think that in this game, we've seen it in this playoff, but in this game, you're going to see probably more motion before the snap. Yes, we understand they want to be a man, but just in case they do flip into a zone, let's check it out. Let's find out and see if they do it. Because in times like that, I think that's when Ohio State's going to run the ball. I think that's exactly when they're going to do that.
And I don't expect them to sit and man-to-man the whole game. They're going to play
some. No, they're going to play some. But I truly believe, just like you, when they get into man, that's when they're. Even though that's Notre Dame's calling card, I won't say the team. I don't think Notre Dame fans understand what actual danger you're putting yourself in when you do that.
Yeah,
because you are leaving yourself susceptible to everything that Chip Kelly and Ryan Day want to do. Their offense, or their scheme and philosophy, and our offense in general is based off of you playing man to man. Don Brown was not a bad defensive play caller. Was not a bad defensive coordinator at Michigan. The problem is that matchups make fights, and when you run a man-to-man scheme, he was blitz happy, Dr. Blitz. But when you run a man-to-man scheme, you have to understand, dude, your corners have to be locked down, and you better hope your D line gets to the quarterback. Here's the problem, Notre Dame: your D line doesn't get to the quarterback.
Not without Mills.
That's not what they do.
That's the only scenario in which that they'd be able to lock them down man to man. Is if you're right, is if their defensive line gets to the quarterback, or if they're able to bring so many guys off the blitz because they're locking guys down, that all of a sudden, Will Howard, freaks out, makes a bad decision. But he is. We've seen it all year. He's a senior leader. He typically doesn't make bad decisions. Let's be honest. He's good for one bad throw game, but then he gets it out of his system. He gets it out of his system. Sometimes that throw results in interception. Sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's because the Ohio State defense is still there to kind of back them up. And that's where I come back to with this, Notre Dame defense versus the Ohio State offense. Notre Dame's defense can do whatever they think they want to try in terms of slowing down Ohio State. But even if they get some even if they get some turnovers, they don't have the quarterback play to be able to capitalize on them, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And also, I've had this conversation with a few Notre Dame fans. Just yesterday on Scarlet and Blue show, we had Ryan Prabel on from Week 0 podcast. He's a Notre Dame guy, and I told him, because I keep hearing, well, Yeah, well, we forced a lot of turnovers. Notre Dame's fourth in the country in turnover margin, but not the play itself. Like if say if a DB strips a fumble or gets an interception,
Yep.
but turnovers percentage wise are a luck factor on a play to play basis. When you're talking maybe let's say 60 plays each for each team. We've seen games where teams run 120 plays total. There's no turnovers. We've seen it. We've seen it plenty of times.
Yep.
So the chance of it happening is really low, and Ohio State doesn't have a tendency to turn the ball over. Like Will Howard averages one interception, less than an interception a game.
Yep.
Our running backs have one fumble on the season. It's not what I think that their path and for Notre Dame, it has been this way all playoff, and they have been able to get it done. But when you have such a narrow path to victory, you have to play a team like Ohio State.
That's the key.
It's hard. It's hard for me to like. Usually, I can pick. It's not to say that Notre Dame doesn't have a chance to win this game, but usually, when we're talking about really good teams, I can pick where I know my team can lose. I can't even pick. There's not a specific matchup that I believe Notre Dame has an advantage over Ohio State.
I will say if one of
outside of us kicking the ball to them, I don't
say special teams they have the clear advantage. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that right now.
Yes,
they've got the clear advantage of special teams. I would say if they've got they're missing one offensive lineman, they're missing their tackle. If their guard ends up playing, they might have the edge at offensive line too, but it's close.
Yeah, Jaguson, how you say it?
So it's that would be the matchup that I would point to. Is their offensive line's a little bit better. With that being said, Ohio State's offensive line has still played really well throughout the CFP. Last game, that was their worst game. The Texas game, that was what we see when that kind of offensive line goes up against a pretty close to an elite defensive line. Texas defensive line is legit.
That's really good.
I won't be shocked if they allow a couple of sacks in this game. I will be shocked if they end up cratering and having Will Howard run for his life back there and they're not opening up holes in the running game. That would shock me. I wouldn't be shocked by some individual poor plays. And I'm fairly sure you're on the same page with me, but I don't know.
I question I question that front seven for Notre Dame. I truly do. If you're not good at stopping the run, and as a D line, you guys don't force a lot of pressure, then what do you do? Because I think that when Notre Dame faced a team that had comparable talent, but a top 10 passing game, when you don't have a D line that gets to the quarterback and you run man to man, that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't care who your corners are. I don't care who they are. Like, it's really rare. Well, almost I don't care who they are, but like it's really rare when you have take the 2019 Ohio State team, where almost every play of the game for the whole season, those guys can just sit there and go single high man. That when you guys have when you have Jeff Okudah, Sean Wade, and who was it that bound your corner? It was
I mean, it wasn't Denzel Ward. I mean, he was. I don't think that was his senior year. But they had Okudah. Kendall Sheffield was on that team.
It was Sheffield. Yeah, he did pretty good that year. No, but it wasn't Sheffield. It was somebody else. I can't think of who it was, but they were really good at this. Was it Damon Wilson?
No, you mean Wilson?
Damon Webb. Damon Webb, yeah. It was Webb. And so it's really rare when you can do that. And I don't think that. I mean, I think that USC game showed me that. I understand that. And let's look at their two opponents here in the playoff in Penn State and Georgia specifically.
Yeah.
Penn State has one of the worst, as a bottom 10 wide receiver unit in the country. Georgia, I mean, you're coming there with a backup quarterback, and you got
Gunnar Stockton. And they had the worst wide receivers, maybe two. I mean,
it's arguable. And if you lead the country in drops, you have an argument to be the worst wide receiver unit in the country.
Yeah,
you by default have that.
Yeah.
So We'll see. Well, it's just like I said the other day. There's some non-negotiables for me, and one of them is running man against Ohio State with a average defensive line, and quite frankly, a running game that has some more confidence than they did during the season. And then I've asked this question too many times now. I hear the numbers 24 points that Notre Dame needs. How?
Well, and you mentioned something earlier that I want to really point out and harp on. When your margin of error is so little, like their margin of error for this team is so small because of how good Ohio State is. Like Notre Dame, they got to play a borderline perfect game to win to win the game, in my opinion, just because of the talent that Ohio State has on their side of the field. Now, we know what the formula is going to be for Notre Dame on offense. They're going to try to run the hell out of the ball, control the clock, and limit the amount of possessions Ohio State has. I mean, we've known all year that's what teams wanted to do. That's what Michigan was able to do. The difference is now Ohio State's play calling isn't just running the ball up the gut, 40 times in a game against two possibly first-round defensive linemen.
Right.
Notre Dame doesn't have that. And obviously Chip Kelly's been much more aggressive. So they're going to be throwing the ball around. They're not, even if they do have limited possessions. I mean, we saw against Oregon how quickly they could score. I mean, they had drives of, 3, 4, 2, 5. Like they were scoring quickly.
Right.
So I just don't know where, like you mentioned, where Notre Dame's points come from when they're probably, I mean, if they score 24 points, that means they're going to have, in my opinion, 10 possessions to do so? I mean, I just don't see it.
Let's go through these comments real quick, and let's bring Johnny up. Learn more as the same PFF rating as Travis Hunter in man coverage. He also can cover 3 yards. What's the last?
We talked about that already. I mean, Smith is probably the best wide receiver in the Big Ten.
No, he's the best wide receiver in the goddamn country. That's exactly what he is.
He might be. He's pretty damn good, but he's not going to be the best. Look, he's going to be the best player on the field when he steps on it. I'll say that. On this field on Monday night, down in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, he is going to be the best guy on the field.
So Will Howard stepped on the field against the Irish pick 6 secondary.
I mean, this guy's just a Notre Dame guy.
Yeah, it's all right, man. It's all right.
You know Drew Allar's name, keeps calling him Allard. But here's the deal. Notre Dame's secondary is very good.
It's very good.
If Howard threw a pick, I just don't see them being able to sustain that level of play that they need to win the game. And we're just talking about one side of the ball right now. Ohio State's defense is better than any defense Notre Dame's seen. They're better than Penn State's defense.
Without question.
And I just don't see how they're going to be able to score, like you said, those 24 points.
So, let's see what else Bernie had to say. Thanks, Bernie. Hold on. What else you got to say, bud? The Irish O-line that took the field in the second half beat the living hell out of the Penn State defense. They did. OSU has never faced off against anything that looked like the Irish Giants.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
Notre Dame's offensive line also, as we talked about, is not fully healthy. And they might be down 2 starters. And if you're down 2 starters, especially if you've got a third-string tackle going against JTT or Jack Sawyer, good luck. They're going to have to chip him with Love, with, just a tight end. Like, they're going to have to make sure that he doesn't, either one of them single-handedly wreak some havoc.
Yeah. All right, let's